game last night. You see this, you watch Ozark on Netflix, and then over and over, guys are like, have you seen Cheer on Netflix? I'm like, what the hell are you, Cheer? Like, and then they're like, bro, you need to see this. It's unbelievable. And you got to see this coach. And I'm like, finally about 11 or 12 different men on golf courses told me this. I'm like, I got to see it. And then it's one of these things like, you're going to binge it. You can't, the stories of these precious kids that are there and Monica, it's awesome. So I just want to acknowledge the show. It's so good. But so is this book. And
Thank
very
you.
rarely do you get someone who's won 14 national championships write a book and say, let me show you about my formula, my recipe for leadership. And again, this applies as an entrepreneur, for you one-on-one in your life, you as a parent. You're going to love this book. But I want to go to some of, like, that's the foundation. Chapter 1 is called Discipline is a Gift. Mm-hmm. And then you talk about something called, so here we go, guys. There's like, if you're driving in the car, you wish you could pull over. You call it compassionate discipline. And it's a perfect description of what I observed of you in your coaching style. So just talk about that a little bit for a minute, compassionate discipline and why it's a gift.
Well, I think discipline is a good thing. And I think structure is a good thing, and expectations. And a lot of times, people come from all different backgrounds and they don't really have those at home. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that really can take you to the next level. But also being empathetic and being able to relate and make them feel like you care about them. Because at the end of the day, people are going to go that extra mile when they feel appreciated and when they feel like you care. And so obviously I'm a mother. And so my perspective is, how would I want someone to treat my child? How would I want not only my child, but how would I want someone to speak to me? And so I try to discipline with a mutual respect. And I'm not a yeller. I think a lot of people think of being tough and disciplined as yelling. And, we see the typical football, you're in your face. And I like passion too. And we can have those moments of passion. But I think the biggest part is there's a big learning curve when 18-year-olds go to college and they're off on their own for their first time. And they need the rules. And they need to be held accountable, but they also need some understanding and some love. And I think it's just a great combination for people to want to listen and want to do better. And, yelling doesn't do it. You have to have a combination of something else.
You do that really well. I want to go a little deeper on it, because I'm just thinking about different moments in the show where, even in the season 1, one of the first shows where the girl's going to be at the top of what I call the pyramid, hurts herself. And you're like, we're going to have to take her out and put someone else in. And these situations happen in business all the time. Most people avoid confrontation in life, even in their marriage. They'll let it stack and stack and stack. You have this really interesting thing, because you're firm and you're incredibly truthful, right? Very, very truthful. But yet you do it in a loving way. Do you ever step back and if you have an emotion, like you're upset with them, do you ever let it breathe a minute before you communicate? Do you have anything you do? Because that's, to me, maybe your great strength. And the other one we're going to come up with in a minute is with this loving, very candid feedback, though. Most people don't do either one of those things. Are you conscious of doing it that way?
I mean, yes, I think so, because I think if we, especially with coaching, if I am not direct, it can lead to confusion or expectations that are not real on their part. And I would want someone to be honest with me, so that even if it makes me upset, I can deal with it and I can move forward. If I'm constantly in a state of, well, maybe I have a chance at this, or maybe that's unfair, I think, to them. If you give them direct feedback and expectations, then it gives them very specific goals to work for and know what they need to do. If they, don't make Matt, what do I need to do to make Matt? Well, to be honest, this is where you're at. And I don't know. I just would want someone to be honest with me and not let me sit there, thinking that I have a chance at doing something, when the reality is, if I don't have this specific skill, or, if I'm not working on this particular thing, I'm not going to be able to get that spot. Also, it gives them a goal, like I said, to work for. If they know that, oh, this is the one thing I'm missing, let me go and put some time into that and work on it. But like I said, I really honestly have always come from a place of I want to have respectful conversations and speak to them in a way I would want to be spoken to, which is why I'm not a yeller. I don't want to feel like someone is being condescending or embarrassing me. I don't think embarrassing anyone. And of course, it happens at times because sometimes we're in a moment and, you're going to be really direct at that moment. But for the most part, I think pulling people to the side and having these open, honest, direct conversations in a very loving way is that's what's worked for me. And yes, sometimes I do need to take a moment. I don't know if you've seen season 2, but I'm like, I need to walk outside because I don't have a good attitude right now, and it's going to probably spill over in how I start coaching in a minute. So I'm just going to go and like fix myself. But I think that I feel like I earn their respect, and to me, honestly, the biggest thing of leadership, whether you're leading your family, your children, or whatever, is they have to respect you. And so I really work on myself a lot so that I'm earning that respect.
It's interesting. You use that word a lot. Use it with them. I was just thinking, I do these interviews. I get to share them with everybody, but a lot of times they're for me, and I reflect on myself when I was early in my business career, before I had kids, because you're intense. Just so you guys know, this is an intense woman. You don't win 14 national championships if you're not one crazy person, intense-wise. She's a crazy person, just so you know. By the way, I think crazy is good. I love crazy people. Weird, rich, and successful, normal, poor, and unsuccessful. So I like that you're crazy. I'm crazy. But before I had kids, I think I had disrespectful conversations sometimes with people. It's something about having babies. I would never want someone to speak to my son or my daughter that way. So you use that word respect a lot, both how you treat these young people and yourself. And a lot of times as a leader, when you've won a bunch of titles and you're the coach and they're a kid, it'd be easy to have a disrespectful tone. And as a business owner or an entrepreneur, same thing in business. I own this place. You work for me. It can come across as disrespectful. So I want to really highlight that part of it. And it's something that she does incredibly well. And it's how you galvanize a group. The second thing I think you're incredible at is instilling belief in people and getting each of them to believe in themselves and getting them to believe as a collective team as well. Is that something you think about consciously and you're always sort of like embeddedly commanding belief into people?
I think so, for sure. I think I'm careful with my words, and it comes with that championship culture. You have to have everybody buy in, not only to the program, but to themselves as well, because they are at such an elite level. If they start doubting themselves, it'll affect their performance. But, I think our culture, I worked really hard in having that culture, and the athletes have always bought in, and it makes my job a little bit easier because they are holding each other accountable on that as well. But, I definitely choose my words wisely. And when there are in situations where we're going through something difficult or we're struggling or whatever, I have to keep in mind that I'm the one they're looking to know, like, if we're in a storm, we're going to get out of the storm. If we're having a tough day at practice, it's okay because tomorrow's a new day and we're going to hit that pyramid or whatever. We go through, just struggling in practice or bigger things that are happening within the team or with different people. So I always know that I have to be that support and that calm within the storm. And so I do choose my words wisely, and I try to always keep it in a positive, like, we're going to overcome this. You saw in season 1 when, when Austin got hurt on the band shell, that's never happened before. In my mind, I was terrified. I thought, I don't know how we're going to overcome this, but I knew that everyone's looking at me, and I was like, oh, we've got this. Y'all did amazing. Like all these positive things, that I'm trying to, it's not that big a deal. We have this, we've practiced this over and over. That's not what I was thinking in my head. I was going through some stuff.
No, that's one big thing as a leader, is not showing hurt and showing, I call it equanimity, calm under duress and pressure. Right. And it's just, these are things you hear all the time and you go, yeah, no, but do you really do them? If you're listening to this, think about your family for a second. Your family has a culture. are you conscious of it? Because a lot of times you bring the culture from the family you grew up in into your new family unconsciously.
Yep.
You know, little things like if you weren't hugged a lot when you were a kid, maybe you don't hug your kids as much. You know, there's a cultural thing. How do you build a culture, by the way? I know that's a broad question, but like, you know, is that something you start out, you go, I'm going to build something here special? Is it one of these things where you want people to feel special that they're at Navarro College? You put on our uniform, there's something special about being here. Is it, do you think about those things, or is it just like the culture just becomes a reflection of the coach?
I think it just becomes a reflection because I was very young when I started. I mean,
Yeah.
I had zero experience.
You were basically right out of college, right? For everybody's understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had no intention of coaching ever. I, have a business degree in finance, and I honestly, my ultimate goal was to move to New York City and work on Wall Street. I thought for some reason, I thought that was the ultimate goal that I should look towards. And, but I graduated college early. So I was 21 when I graduated, and, moved to Dallas. I married my high school sweetheart. We moved to Dallas for a year, and I was working at a computer company that I really it was just the first job offered to me to pay the bills, to, to figure out what we were going to do. And a friend of mine was the baseball coach at Navarro, and he called me one day and he was like, "Hey, our cheerleading coach is leaving. You should come and apply for this job." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, it was I grew up there, so I was like, I guess I could do that. I really don't like what I'm doing right now, and it'll be a good stepping stone. Give me some time to figure out what I want to do."
Wow.
So I applied for the job, no coaching experience at all. Like I said, I'd only been out of college for a year, and got the job. And so I basically learned everything from trial and error and just studying my butt off, because I was, I got there and there were only 14 people on the team when I got there. And so, of course, they'd never won. They weren't not good. They were decent, but they were not, nobody knew who we were by any means. And so I'm very competitive. And I was like, I want to build this program up. Like, even if I'm here for a year or two, like, I want to be the best, because that's just, if I'm, playing a card game, I want to win every single time. That's just who I am. I'm competitive, and I want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So I started, trying to learn and figure out how to do that. And I really just took everything that I learned in business, because I thought, well, to earn the ultimate respect, I need to win a national championship. That's what I need to do. And how am I going to do that? We have 14 people on the team. So I just started, I thought, actually, this is what I did. I was like, how do I win a national championship? Well, I get the most points. How do I get the most points? Well, let me look at a score sheet. I need to maximize my points in all of these categories. How do I do that? Okay, well, this means we're going to need to get really good in all these categories. So I kind of started, from the goal and worked backwards and tried to, recruit people. And at that time, it was not, I literally was going into the weight room. I see a big guy and I'm like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming and letting us teach you how to throw some girls?" Yeah, because, cheerleading, the talent pool wasn't as big, because like I said, it was right at the start of all-star cheerleading. There weren't a lot of guys. A lot of the guys that were involved, really, they got involved because their girlfriends were a cheerleader. They played football. They were like, oh, they started throwing some people around and realized how, it's kind of like addicting to what else can I do? And so, early on, there just weren't a lot of males, out there to recruit. So we're just recruiting and really teaching the guys that, I did actually have some boyfriends of the girls that we taught and pulled into the team. So just started there and, built, I didn't know. So like I said, I didn't go in and go, "Oh, I'm going to build this championship culture." I was really just like, wait, what, I want to win. So let me start there. And then it just started kind of coming together, but I always knew like what kind of person I am. And I thought the most important thing, like I said from the beginning, was I need their respect, and I need to make sure that I'm working on myself to earn that. And I want to make sure I'm living my life by leading by an example and doing what I expect them. So I really tried to make sure that in my own personal life, I was, being a good person. And, if I expect you to do this, I'm going to do it times 1,000. I'm going to show you how to do it through my actions. And
Yeah.
so because of that, the buy-in was pretty quick. These kids were buying in because they were like, they wanted to make me proud. I mean, I've heard that so
That's
many
it.
times. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so I really think that was how we started building this. I was doing my job by being a good leader and by being a good example. And
Yeah.
they wanted to follow that example.
Yeah. I think you said so much there. The first thing that you said was about being competitive. Every single person that I've ever been around, they have a crazy competitive streak. It's this invisible thing. They're psychos. They're just different. They want to beat you at everything they do. And this is a telling lesson for you guys that are building a team, because she has a whole chapter in the book on recruiting. And I think one of the things you should look for is competitive people. The second thing that she said there that just I want to make sure we unpack, because I think great leaders are sort of aspirational people, meaning they want to live a certain way themselves. They aspire to be a certain way. And then when you're in their presence, whether it's a Tom Brady or a John Wooden or yourself or any great leader, you want to make them proud because you respect them. If you start connecting the dots of Monica's mindset, because a lot of times people just do things unconsciously very well. But I like to unpack them. There's this respect thing both ways, which is then aspirational. And then if you get someone competitive, they want to make you more proud than other people are making you proud. And now you've got this thing you can't really describe, but it wins.
Yeah.
And it builds a culture. And so what about the recruiting piece? Because everyone's recruiting. I mean, you can't win without great players in any sport. You can't win in business unless you've got great people around you. What do you look for in recruits? Because there are different backgrounds when you watch this show. And it's beautiful, the mosaic of these precious people that you lead. But what do you look for when you're recruiting? And what do you say to get recruits?
Well, obviously, I'll look for the talent. I mean, that's a big part of it. But also, I want someone that's coachable. You don't always know, because I don't, sometimes what is in my mind as far as like, oh, this person is going to bring this person's going to bring this. Well, then when you get there, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. And I think that's probably with everyone, because you don't really know, their talent. And I don't know how it works, in football. You might have more of a personal relationship, but a lot of times you're just meeting these people for the first time. And it's, you're basing some things off of phone calls. You look at their social media and see what kind of person you might think they are through their social media. Yeah. Sometimes you talk to their former coaches. But obviously it starts with the drive of talent. We're looking for certain skills, but we want someone coachable. I've definitely not taken people before because of a phone call with a previous coach, and some red flags that stick out as, they are talented, but this could be a potential problem as far as being a team player. And that's such a big aspect of what we do, all working together. I mean, you talk about a pyramid. If we're not all on the same page and working together to try to build each other up, it's definitely going to fall apart really quickly. There have been some red flags that will, no matter what kind of talent they have, I'm like, no, this is probably not a good fit for my program. But it usually it figures itself out when we get there. We don't always, some people don't make it through the program because they're not a good fit. And then some people that, I think, well, we'll give them a try. They end up being my best leaders on the team. They surprise you. You don't really know. So that is a little bit of the hard part of coaching. You really don't know until you get into it. But, we have enough people on the team that I feel like that even the ones that struggle a little bit, they usually step up to the plate and they see what they're kind of aspiring to be. But as far as what I say to them, I mean, obviously we're junior college, so we don't, I'm not recruiting on that big game day experience. Oh, come to Alabama, you're going to have the most incredible, but so I just really more so recruit on the family aspect, the competitive aspect. If you're competitive and you want to be a part of a program that's going to push you to be your very best, both in cheerleading, but also in life, this is the place for you.
The family part is the thing most people miss when they're recruiting people. Most people have a need to belong. And I don't think enough people who recruit people emphasize that part of, we'll love you here. We're going to believe in you here. Just saying those words to a human. I mean, I'm talking about some of the top levels in corporate positions and business positions I've hired for. I'm like, hey, listen, you know what separates us? We're going to truly love you. We're going to be honest with you. You're going to be part of our family. And I can't get over the fact that enough business leaders don't say that. I just don't get it. And
Yeah,
so
because it truly is. I mean, we're together all the time. We are a family through the good and bad, because families bicker, but
yeah.
we are here for each other.
The stories on the show, you guys, of how, I mean, I really believe that there's a large percentage of these kids, young adults who come to your program for the family aspect and to have a mother leader figure in you. And it's beautiful. And it made me think, I got to tell you, Monica, I'm like, man, these are some unique stories. And then I started to think every human being has these stories. They've all been with me too. Just you get to document it on your show. All of you that are in any leadership position, these are precious souls. These people that, they didn't do this today, or they do that, or they're not. This is a human being with an unbelievable story, with some wounds and some needs and some desires and dreams. And what a wonderful position to be in as a leader. And the more you remind yourself of that, the less you'll burn out. My sense is that's how you can last 27 years doing something that you didn't even know you were going to do, right? It's got to be the people and these precious souls that keep you wanting to come back. Am I wrong about that? Am I right?
No, absolutely. I think the biggest thing, the thing that I love, I will get phone calls, from someone 10 years later. They've been in my program 10 years ago, and they're like, you told me one time, and I don't remember, but something that stuck with them, and they're like, it made me do this, and then I got this promotion. They're just so proud to tell me about how successful they're doing, or just, I'm like, this is my purpose. This is why I come in and do this and make all these sacrifices and work these long hours. And it truly is for something way beyond a national championship,
Big time. I wish most people would listen to this, because for me, I got to tell you, in business or just in life, it's the same thing. It's running into someone or getting a message like, 12 years ago, you said this. I'm like, I don't remember saying that. But most people, this is why you should stay in your dream, everybody. Most of you don't stay in your dream when it's getting difficult, when you're not winning the national championships of your life or your business. You don't stay in long enough to get the rewards years later. There's something about just doing something a long time in people's lives that eventually the ripple effect, the wave comes back at you, and the blessings of what you've done for people. Most of you quit before you get those blessings. Stay in it, right? Now, there's other little things you do. Let's get some intense stuff. There's a chapter in the book. By the way, get the book, you guys. I'm only going to cover a few things. You can tell. Like, this isn't one of these like foofy leadership books. Like, every chapter is a lesson, and they're really good ones. But you also have this one. Nick Saban says something very similar at Alabama about, you want to practice first, the way I'll mess up how you said it, but the principle. You want to practice first to get it right, but then you want to practice to the point where you can't get it wrong. That's the standard at your program, right? Like that's a different standard than most places. Do you think about that consciously all the time?
Well, I said that in season 1, and I was just talking. I didn't say it thinking, oh, this is going to be some standout moment, but it is just something I think with cheerleading, it is such a big, half the game is mental, believing in yourself and that confidence. And so, and as you know, what we do is so intricate. It's just so, it takes a lot of time. And I'm a numbers person, so just like we're working on our pyramid right now. So I'm like, okay, guys, here we go. We're going to do 10 reps. Let's see what our percentage is of hitting this. Let's see where our starting place is. We'll do 10. We hit 3 out of 10. Ooh, we're not doing very good. We've got a 30% hit rate right now, and then every day we do that, and it goes up and up and up. And, so we do these reps so that we finally are getting it right. But then who stops there? I'm like, I can't imagine anybody that would stop when they finally just do it right. Like, that's not how you make it great, So we put in all this time in these reps, because not just for the physical part of it, but for the mental part of it, because physically, yes, we want to make sure that we've done it so many times that when it does not do exactly how it's supposed to, we can still make it through. Because that's the one thing I always tell them too, is the one thing I can guarantee is that everything will not be perfect. So how are you going to handle it? How are you going to go out there and make it look like everything was so easy and we did it great, because we know everything's not going to be perfect. You're going to have a bad grip. Your tumbling's going to feel weird at this moment, but you still have to keep going. You still have to land on your feet. Everything has to stay in the air. So we put all this time and all these reps in to get it right. And then we put all this time and these reps in to not get it wrong. How, when you catch that stunt and it's weird, but you have to make it stay up. Like, that's part of that practice and preparation for that one time, because you said it earlier, we only get one chance. We don't have a whole we get one chance. So when that grip's not right, how are you going to make it look right? And then it makes it the other whole part of cheerleading is mental, because it's the most scary, nerve-wracking, exciting, adrenaline flowing moment. You step out there, and your muscle memory has to take over because your mind's kind of all over the place. But you also need to be so confident in yourself that you can calm those nerves. So it's really just this big preparation game, mentally and physically.
That is what separates you, though. Remember I said earlier, people that are great do things unconsciously. You said, who would stop just when you get it right? Well, just about everybody does. That's what makes you different. And this is true in every single thing. I watch it like, we got it right. Let's go. Salespeople, you're training salespeople. All right, they got it. Let's go. Next thing. No, you do it over and over and over until they're so familiar with doing it right. That's like a foreign experience when it's not, and they can move back to getting it right quicker than most people. In golf, they call that dispersion. Like, I'm a crappy golfer. The reason is my bad shots can go 80 yards left or 100 yards right. Bad players or good players still hit bad shots. The difference is their dispersion is smaller. Theirs is 10 yards too far left, 10 yards right. They can get back to better quicker because they're more familiar with it. So that's a huge thing that someone who's won 14 freaking championships does, that she doesn't get why no one else does it. And why she do it? Competitiveness. Because ultimately in anything in life, you're going to get your standard, not your goal. So every team has the goal of winning the championship, right? But what's different is the standards in her program. You eventually get your standard. That's the culture. So it just fires me up. Thank you for that. I love it. I'll be talking about you all day long. We're going to talk about Dancing with the Stars in a minute, because I want to get to where you had some pain. We're going to go to a pain point in a minute. But one more thing you say, there's just so much stuff in here as a leader and someone that I just know is true, right? So you give little tips in there that I don't think are little. You said something in the book, I think it's chapter 19 or 20. How I know this, I don't know, but I do. You said, find a training buddy. Mm-hmm. And before you answer, I just want to give the context to everyone, because I want people to hear the greatest at what she does version of it. Not enough of you find someone to run with in your business life or your fitness life. I'm going to get in shape. Find a training buddy. I'm going to make sales calls. Find someone to do it with. And you even break this down even in your own program. So to elaborate on that, why does it matter to have someone you're sort of partnering with, and why? What do you do with them?
Well, I think a lot of things: accountability, motivation, support system, all these things that you need. I mean, if you're talking about working out, I mean, how easy is it to go, I'm kind of tired today, but when you have someone to hold you accountable, I mean, that, then that's your support system. Your support system keeps you on track. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you going, because life does get crazy. It gets hard, and it's so easy to go, whoo, had a really tough day. I think I'm just going to take tonight off, or I'm really going through this, so I'm just not going to be my best today. No. We got to be there for each other. And, that's the great thing about cheerleading is, well, really anything. Mm-hmm. We're there. Everybody's going to have we have 20 people on the mat. Odds are there's going to be a day that one of those 20 people is going through something, right? Whether it's a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, your parents are going through a divorce, you failed your test that day, whatever. It's some personal issue. You might not be able to be your best that day, but you've got your support system to carry you through that. But the next day you might have to be the support system, because now you're at a better point, that day, mentally, physically. You can help carry them through that routine, whether it's just a tap on the leg that's like, let's go. And that's all they needed to hear to make it through the rest. Or you're literally hugging them afterwards and getting them through and, mentally ready to go that next full out. It really could be anything. But, I do talk about in the book, like my dad had a stroke several years ago. And if I didn't have my sister to help, we are each other's support system to take care of him, because it is a tough job taking care of your parent,
Sure. I'm sorry about that, by the way. That is difficult. Yeah. I'm amazed by how many people in life don't find that person. Even for me in business, I used to have a Sunday night phone call with 2 people. We would just like review what we were working on and what our anxieties were. And someone just go, hey, this is on my head right now, my heart, and you get rid of it a little bit. This book, frankly, this conversation is like a master class. That's why I'm really grateful you're doing this, Monica. I told you when we started, this ain't going to be like the cream puff stuff. Like we're getting into it, because I do this show. Literally, it's a labor of love for people. I want their lives to get better. I try to bring them every week, somebody who's the best at something. And this goes to life skills. Have someone to bounce stuff off of. Review your competitiveness. Look at your standards. Do things until you can't get them wrong. All of these different things, compassionate accountability and leadership with people. These are all things, this idea of gaining respect and being aspirational. One other thing you do, and this is the hard part for most people, and it's chapter 4. You say, separate fantasy from reality. And I'm going to let you talk about this, because I don't think most people even get honest with themselves. I think they do 2 things. There's certain people who just deny what they need to improve and do, right? And they won't define reality. They go, I hate to say it this way, I'm a little pudgy. No, you've become fat, and they don't define it, right? Or, I'm a little bit lazy. No, like you are blowing it in your life. And then there's the other side where people don't define reality and make themselves feel worse about where they are. I suck at this. I'm no good. Nobody loves me. No one will love me. I'm not likable. No, that's not true at all. You've created a false reality about yourself that you're reinforcing and proving to be true because you believe it in your life, right? So you're going to prove what you believe long term. So in the book, you talk about it a little bit differently, but separate fantasy from reality. How's that work?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So you hit it when you said, the people that create their own problems. That's such a pet peeve of mine. Here's the thing. I'm really tough on myself. And I do think that the key to being successful in anything is always looking at yourself, always. And I'm really good at that. If there's a problem, the first thing that I ask myself is, what did I bring to the table? What could I have done better? And I think there's so many people in this world right now that are looking to blame someone else. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they feel bad about, if they I really don't know. Like, to me, taking ownership of something is the best way to gain respect. Like if you come to me and say, I screwed up, I did this, that you've just gained a little bit of respect. Because if I come to you and say, hey, did you, were you involved in this situation? And they go, well, so-and-so, they start putting the blame, trying to have an excuse of why. And this, like, that to me, it doesn't show accountability for, even if you didn't even, if you weren't that big of a part of it, like, at least go, I probably could have done something to diffuse the situation, but here's what happened, without putting any blame on other people. And I think that if you take that responsibility, you are always working on yourself and not saying, well, I'm kind of pudgy. No, let me look at this really. What am I looking at here? And how can I get better? And being vulnerable, almost like it's okay to not be perfect. And I'm bad at that myself, because I am a perfectionist, very hard on myself. Like, I want to be perfect at everything. And I've really, over the years, have learned to be more vulnerable and go, it's okay to make mistakes, because that's how we get better. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. And it's okay to own that and say it to the world. I messed up, and go
For
ahead.
me, if I have a friend who's never said I'm sorry or I've changed my mind long term, like if I've known them a long time, that's not a good sign in a friend or a business partner. I like leaders that go, hey, I messed this one up. Give me some grace. I did it. My intentions were good. I just called the wrong shot, or I made a bad choice. Do you think it's connected to confidence? I'm just thinking as you're talking, like, I think if you're confident and something doesn't happen around you, you think, well, I should be better than this. I think sometimes this pushing it off to other people, they just don't believe in themselves. And so rather than look at themselves, who they don't like, I don't like me.
Yep.
I don't want to look at me. I don't want you to look at me. So it's this person's fault or it's that. And I feel sad when someone's that way. But if you are that way, one of the things to evaluate is, how do you feel about yourself? Because I think if you can say, listen, I'm capable of something really great, and you believe that, when it doesn't happen, you assume it's you. You assume there's things you could do better. You assume there's a lesson in it. But when you don't feel great about you, I bet you if you think back through your coaching too, Monica, the ones who constantly push it off to other people are the ones who, the truth is, if you really evaluate it, don't believe in themselves like they need to. And so they push it off to someone else.
And I think that's what, like, a lot of times I'll go, well, sometimes you just don't know until you know, if that makes sense. You don't know until you know. So I think a lot of the life lessons that sometimes I'll have a little talk with the team or whatever. And I just try to tell, like, that's something that I do say sometimes to them, is like, just take ownership. Like, actually, people will respect you. It's okay to make a mistake. We are all human, and we will all make mistakes. I'm going to make plenty. And, I'm going to apologize and own it and move forward, because that's all we can do. And that right there will earn you a lot of respect in other people's eyes. And so I'm hoping that just by them hearing it and go, wow, I never thought about it that way. I just was too ashamed to admit that I did wrong. But you know what? That's powerful to admit that I did wrong. So maybe it's okay. It's like it give them the okay to say, I screwed up,
Yeah. That's why I hate politics so much.
Oh,
because you're not even allowed as a politician to go, whoops, made a mistake. They would rather just keep us all sort of against one another. And then even as a leader, you're running a damn country over 4 years. You're going to make mistakes. Man, would I love to go, hey, I called the wrong shot. My intentions were good. I'm going to get it right the next time. I'd be like, I'll follow that woman through a wall, that man through a wall. But they never admit it. It's always someone else's fault. I'm like, I take nothing any of you say to be truthful, because you just don't have any accountability.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things I am on politics. It's just that people always ask me about it. I can't stand it. All right, speaking about can't stand it, you did Dancing with the Stars. And it's interesting. I want you to share the experience with me. Was it hard for you to be someone who's coaching most of the time to then have it flipped on you and basically you're the one being coached? And I think your back wasn't doing well either. So what was the whole Dancing with the Stars experience like for you? Good or bad or yeah?
Well, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And so I would do it. Yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat, because it was a great experience. But no, it was not fun. It was not fun. It was hard. I think I'm very competitive, and so originally I was like, oh, this is competition. I know how to do competition. I know how to mentally prepare. I know how to physically prepare. I've got this. I can do this. And I got there, and I was kind of shocked at how intimidated I was, because I'm not used to being that intimidated. I usually have a lot of confidence, even when I'm, not doing something that I'm that great at. I still feel like I'm confident, like I can get through this. I'll do my very best, and just I have confidence in myself. And I got there, and I was like, I was intimidated, and I realized very quickly that it's not really a competition. I mean, it's and not only that, all of these people that were there participating, a lot of them were performers that were on stage, the past however many years of their life. They were, they did Broadway, they did this or that. Well, yes, I was a cheerleader 30 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time. I'm on the other side of that. I'm not actually out there on a stage performing. I know how to get these people ready. but I've not physically done that myself in a really long time. And I have zero acting skills. And I also realized quickly that that was kind of a big part of it too. So,
Mm.
so I saw it as, whew, I have a lot of catching up to do. and, and so, you know, and also there was a lot of talk in the media at every question I got from, because we did lots of press. Every week we were doing press. And the question was always, oh, the coach is being coached. How is she going to handle it? And so I went in and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be the perfect student because I don't want to not be a great student. I would expect someone else. So what I did was I just did everything I was told and I never spoke up, which I know is not right. I mean, I would, you know, I finally spoke up, but I just was doing everything I was told and I wasn't communicating like I know that I should be. And maybe it's because I hadn't been in that student role in a long time. Yeah. I'd always been in the coaching role and I was just trying to be that good student. And yes, sir, whatever you say, let me do it. And really, once I decided to speak up and say, this is not working for me, the way that you're coaching me, everything turned for the better. And the experience was a lot better. And I think our rapport was a lot better after that. And so learning lesson for me, do what I know is right, and which communication is so important. And I should have spoken up sooner, you know, but at the end of the day, the experience, putting myself out of my comfort zone and through all of that was, I think everybody should get themselves out of their comfort zone every once in a while.
Yeah. Do you think, speaking of communication, in your sport, there's something called mat talk, which I didn't know what it was until I started watching. Did you guys lack that? Tell them what mat talk is. And by the way, how much there's a chapter in the book called Talk, Talk, Talk. And yet you do Dancing with the Stars and you're saying, I didn't talk, talk, talk.
I didn't.
So talk about that.
Well, mat talk is basically just encouragement. Obviously in cheerleading, if we're doing a routine pull out, it's a lot of yelling because if you're on, you want to basically give, some people's routine is harder at a certain moment than others. And so if my routine's easier at this moment and yours is harder, I'm yelling for you. I'm giving you my energy. If I'm on the side watching, I'm yelling. I'm giving you my energy. It's just, honestly, at the end of the day, it's encouragement. But in cheerleading, it's very powerful. It's passionate. It's loud. It's energy. Just when there's a good mat talk during a full out, it's magic. It's really magical because it's a lot of energy just all over the floor. But it also, you know, in real life terms, could just be simply, you know, you've got a presentation. I'm you know, going to give you a ton of encouragement before you go out there. You're about to kill this. You know, you've got this. Don't worry about it. You're a badass, whatever you want to say, you know. So that's what it is. And you know, as far as Dancing with the Stars, I think in the dance world, the culture that they come from, being condescending is kind of like the norm, and it's not the norm where I come from. So I was like, whoa, I'm not used to being talked to like this. You know, I don't talk to my kids like this. When I want to get the best out of them, it's an encouraging, like, you've got this. I mean, it's an encouraging talk. So the condescending yelling, like, that's not how I run my team. And so it kind of just shocked me. And I was like, well, okay, but I'm the student here. So I'm just going to do what I'm told. This is obviously what works in this environment. So let me just do, but I know better, you know? And so.
Monica, I got to tell you, for everyone that's on audio, your face just totally changed when you talked about being talked to that way. Like there's a hurt or there's a pain look on your face. I'm not kidding you. And
oh goodness.
And what it is it violates one of your principles, which is respect.
Yeah.
And your face changed. If everyone listening on audio, just trust me on this. There's this massively accomplished woman, and for 5 seconds, her mind went to how she was talked to, and her whole face changed. And so that's one thing as a leader, you know, you better be really careful about treating people with respect. I don't think there's any environment where disrespect still works. Now, there are some sports and cultures, maybe it's in dance, where they've taken archaic ideas and strategies and ways of communicating into the future. But that doesn't mean someone who didn't communicate the correct way with positive energy wouldn't do better than them. And so it's a really, really powerful point. And this point of energy too, it's this invisible force most people don't get that winners get, that people respond to energy. You talk about mat talk and creating energy, but this is true even when you're presenting or in your family has an energy when you walk in the house. I can feel it in some homes when I walk in them. There's a loving, kind, beautiful energy. You go into other ones, you can just feel the energy's different, right? You go to a culture. I go speak to sports teams or companies. Some of them are, man, their energy and culture is winning and fun and loving and achieving. And other ones, it's not. And it's an energy thing and it's invisible. And it's true in sports as well. And you didn't have the right energy there, did you? Just wasn't the right energy.
Yeah, it was different and I wasn't used to it. And so, I should have spoken up because once I spoke up, it was completely different. You know, I learned a valuable lesson there.
Do you let your kids do that? You're open to that when they go, hey, this isn't, you want them communicating back with you as a coach saying, hey, this isn't working for me the way we're talking right now, or the way you're saying it, or that's okay with you?
Well, yeah, as long as it's respectful, of course. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, we have open door policy. You want to come talk to me in the office about whether it be like, hey, I felt this type of way because a lot of times that's a miscommunication. And I definitely want someone to come to me if they feel some type of way, because I want to correct the situation, or if there was a miscommunication, make sure that it's clarified. And because I would never want someone to feel unheard or treated disrespectfully, or, you know, and sometimes everyone's different. So, you know, sometimes the quieter people, you know, maybe I'm not reading them very well, and I'm thinking they're being lazy and they're just intimidated. I don't know. So we definitely need to have that communication, whether it's them coming to me and say, hey, my feelings got hurt today because I felt like I was overlooked, or, you know, whatever, because it's an opportunity for me to reassure them and give them back some confidence, and then just not have any miscommunication or misinterpretation, because that'll get you all, you know, out of whack.
Yeah, you guys, I over prepare for interviews, as you know, right? So I know everything. I probably know more about Monica's book than Monica knows, because I know, right? But there's a part of the book we're not going to get into now because I've got 2 questions left. But to this point, that don't assume everybody's like you. And my biggest mistake as a young leader is I ended up looking around after about 6, 7 years, and everybody that worked with me was just like me. They were intense. They were males. They were all former athletes or military in real discipline. They loved how I talked. They loved my style. But I didn't have any real diversity of person. I had diversity from a race standpoint or religion. I had people from all cultures. That's just me. But the truth is, we're all the same person. Once I figured out, hey, I've got to be able to communicate with different types of people. The quiet ones, the shy ones, the less confident ones, the ones who communicate just differently. But I didn't do that very well. So there's a whole chapter in the book about that she's really great at doing. And if you watch the show, you know, she's got people from all different backgrounds, certainly different than hers. Okay, 2 questions left. Pressure. It's different. I have to think it's different of nailing the routine 3 weeks before Daytona than it is now we're out there. Do you do anything? Is it just preparation or repetition? But we got 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, 15 seconds, right? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything you do like that day, an hour before, to calm them? Is there any trick of the trade or anything like, because for some people, their 2 minutes and 15 seconds is, I've got to close this deal right now, or I'm going to ask this woman out on a date. And that's their 2 minutes and 15 seconds of their life. And they're blah, 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 blah. Is there anything you do? do to help them deal with pressure?
Well, I think the only thing that we can control is our preparation for that one moment. And so we do put a lot of preparation into our mental game, because that's where that mental part comes in. Because we know physically we're ready.
Okay.
Physically, we have trained and done everything that we feel like we need to go out there and put out our best performance. Mentally, though, that's where it can get you, So that pressure is mental. That pressure is mental. So when we're preparing at home, the other thing that we do besides physically doing the routine over and over is we try to put ourselves in that moment. So in Daytona, the warm-up facility is kind of a long walk. It's across the street. You got to go way back. And so we do our whole warm-up as if we're in Daytona. So we do our mat rotations exactly like it's going to be in the warm-up room. We time it. I've got my clock going, time in each section. We run it just like it's going to be in there. I try to announce it, So honestly, after we start, the vets know how it works. I could walk out and not coach again. And the vets are that good. They know exactly how my mind works, and they know exactly how we're going to run a warm up. But the warm up never changes. So as soon as we get in this routine of what the warm up is going to be, and the new people understand it, it never changes, and it puts them in. So what we say in Daytona is just another day at practice. It's just this is not a big deal. It's just another day at practice. So we do our warm up through. They get to go. I'm timing it, however many minutes I think they're going to have exactly before they compete on that band shell. That's how many minutes they get. They go to the bathroom, they get a drink, and then we walk to our clock tower to mimic the walk from across the street. So they walk to the clock tower, they come back, they do their prayer, they do their talk, they come in, they get ready, they come out, we do our thing. So we really mimic the pressure that because I feel like what pressure is, it's that different environment and going, wait a minute, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel out of sorts, we're not at practice anymore. We're just, so we try to really take away the pressure by really mimicking how you're going to